let's be honest, Blake, you got exposed. Your BFF is now engaged and you can't talk to them. That's gotta suck. And that's not Justin's fault, that's your fault. You were caught red-handed.
The issue? Blake Lively was once Taylor Swift's closest friend, yet she's now missing from one of the biggest milestones in Taylor's life. The answer? Look beyond the flawless public persona and pay attention to the subtle inconsistencies that have been there all along. In this video, we'll uncover the clues step by step, the disappearing mentions, the distant red carpet energy, the empty seat at the engagement. By the end, it'll be clear this exclusion isn't random, but perhaps the final chapter in a friendship that has slowly, quietly, and unmistakably been falling apart.
Photos, it is official, there it is. We're gonna go through these quickly, then we're gonna come back and do some more. But there we are. Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. Wow. And literally, it's been up for like 10 minutes and already has 1.5 million likes. This is official. She said, yes, it is. Oh, kids are next. This is no joke.
When people once talked about Taylor Swift's inner circle, Blake Lively's name was always among the first to be mentioned. Fans were convinced their bond was unbreakable because the proof seemed to be everywhere. Blake wasn't just another celebrity friend invited to a concert or caught in a casual selfie. She was a core part of Taylor's world. She appeared at Taylor's iconic 4th of July parties, those now legendary gatherings that defined a few summers of pop culture. Matching outfits, synchronized sparklers, and those perfectly framed group shots bursting with laughter became a visual manifesto for what the internet dubbed squad goals. Add in those family getaways where Blake and Ryan Reynolds were photographed alongside Taylor on quiet coastal vacations, and it looked like their friendship wasn't just real, it was intimate. On social media, Taylor often celebrated Blake in glowing tributes, while Blake returned the favor with witty, affectionate comments that gave off a sisterly vibe, the kind that made fans feel they were witnessing a genuine connection rather than a public performance. But beneath the flawless facade, the friendship began to look almost too perfect, too curated. Every photo was polished to a magazine-worthy shine. Every caption seemed designed to trend. For a relationship that was supposed to represent authenticity, there was something suspiciously orchestrated about how it all appeared online. Think about it. Taylor's other famous friendships, like those with Selena Gomez or Gigi Hadid, were often shown through blurry videos, unposed pictures, or spontaneous moments that felt real. With Blake, however, everything looked like part of a carefully managed rollout. The world loved it because it was seamless, but real life rarely stays that way. Then came the quiet shift. As Taylor's fame reached even greater heights, touring stadiums, dominating charts, and rebranding her public image, Blake's presence began to fade. She appeared less at events, less in group shots, and less in the narratives that surrounded Taylor's close friends. In eras when Taylor leaned heavily on her female friendships to fight back against portrayals of isolation or rivalry, Blake was suddenly missing from the frame. It raises the question, was their friendship ever as organic as it seemed, or was it a mutually beneficial partnership that simply ran its course once their public images evolved? The truth is, facades only reveal themselves after they start to crack, and those cracks had been visible all along. If anyone had looked closely, the real signs weren't in the Instagram captions or the red carpet photos. They were in the subtle, unguarded moments when the cameras were rolling live. The stiffness in body language, the forced smiles, the growing distance between them, all hinted that the golden image of their friendship might have been fading long before anyone dared to admit it.
It's just funny because as she was talking about this, everyone's talking about, oh crap, what's going to be in this album? What's going to happen? Is she going to bash on Blake? And the song that I think is most in question is the one with Sabrina Carpenter. The fact that Sabrina Carpenter is now in a song with Taylor Swift. Sabrina Carpenter is the one who's following Justin Baldoni, did a movie called Clouds. You can't tell me Taylor and Sabrina didn't talk about this. You can't tell me that. They had to have talked about this. And the fact that Travis has unfollowed him, the fact that Sabrina is still following Justin, all of this collides to sort of tell me that, yeah, Blake's done. Done. And yeah, I am going to make it about that story because I'm happy for them. And I to be honest, Blake, you got exposed. Your BFF is now engaged and you can't talk to them. That's gotta suck. And that's not Justin's fault. That's your fault. You were caught. You were caught red-handed.
Could their smiles and poses have revealed more truth than their words ever did? That's the question fans began asking once the photos and clips of Taylor Swift and Blake Lively stopped radiating the same warmth they once had. When you look at their appearances together at premieres and award shows over the years, there's a visible shift in energy. Early on, Taylor would pull Blake close, eyes locked, their grins genuine and full of spark. But later, subtle changes started to show, smiles that no longer reached Blake's eyes, her body turned slightly away, her posture less open. In one viral red carpet moment, Taylor leans in laughing, but Blake glances off to the side mid-smile, her focus drifting elsewhere. It's a blink-and-you-miss-it gesture, but for those paying attention, it spoke volumes. Compare that with how Blake interacts with others at film premieres. She's animated, expressive, her gestures wide and engaging, her eye contact steady. Yet around Taylor, she seems smaller, her shoulders angled outward, her arms held close to her body. Even her smiles take on a rehearsed quality, polite rather than joyful. Was it simply nerves about being filmed together, or did something deeper ripple beneath the surface? Casual viewers might have brushed it off, but body language experts notice more. They often say that when your gestures and emotions don't align, the body tells on you. You can be smiling, but if your torso leans away, it signals discomfort or distance, and that's precisely what watchers observed here. Taylor leaned in, fully present, while Blake subtly pulled back, creating physical space between them, even if it was just an inch or two. But in the world of public appearances, where every photo is a performance of closeness, those inches speak louder than words. It might seem like overanalysis, but in an environment built on image, the smallest details often reveal the biggest truths. Fans, distracted by fashion, makeup, and camera flashes, miss the quiet language of detachment unfolding in plain sight. When you piece together their appearances over time, a pattern emerges, one that's hard to deny. What once looked like effortless camaraderie began to feel staged, like a friendship running on performance rather than genuine connection. Which leads to the bigger question, were those picture-perfect smiles hiding a rift long before the public noticed? Because if their bodies were already pulling apart, the next chapter of silence, when the distance moved from red carpets to social media, didn't come out of nowhere. It was simply the physical distance finally turning into digital silence.
The wedding engagement ring was worth up to $1 million. A lot of people are saying, experts, jewelry experts, which would make sense. You got to give someone like Taylor, who's a billionaire, something pretty snazzy. I mean, look at her watch. Yikes. And wow, I couldn't afford that. They were about to go out to dinner, and he said, let's go out and have a glass of wine. They got out there, and that's when he asked her. It was beautiful. This came in from Travis's dad, who dished a little bit more on the proposal itself. So there it is. It's official now. They've asked the question. And so, yeah, they talk a little bit more. If there was a quote that's not there, but yeah, it's not going to be a royal wedding. They want something more casual, more down to earth. That is their plan.
So, when did the silence between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively really begin? In the early days, Blake was one of Taylor's loudest cheerleaders, celebrating every new album, every major milestone, and every tour launch with playful, affectionate posts that felt intimate and real. Fans saw their exchanges as proof of a genuine friendship, two women who shared inside jokes and mutual admiration, unfiltered and unforced. That rhythm of support seemed natural, and everyone assumed it would continue as Taylor's career skyrocketed. But somewhere along the line, the tone changed, and the shift was hard to ignore. A quick scroll through their timelines shows the drop-off in plain sight. As Taylor reached new career peaks, shattering chart records, collecting major awards, and launching era-defining tours, Blake's social media stayed silent. IT wasn't just an occasional missed shout-out. It became a consistent absence. While other celebrities posted heartfelt tributes, reposted Taylor's clips, or flooded her comments with support, Blake's feed offered nothing. Fans noticed the pattern and began flooding older posts with questions, wondering where the public support had gone. Initially, some tried to explain it away. Maybe Blake had pulled back from social media altogether. Maybe she was too busy juggling motherhood, acting commitments, and her growing business ventures. Those reasons sounded believable until you looked closer. Despite the silence surrounding Taylor, Blake was still posting about other celebrities, projects, and events. She congratulated peers on film releases, celebrated friends' milestones, and shared personal moments with her usual humor and warmth. The pattern became impossible to dismiss. The silence around Taylor didn't look accidental anymore. It looked intentional. Taylor's side reflected the same change. For years, she had been equally vocal about her affection for Blake, often tagging her in photos, writing glowing captions, and publicly highlighting their bond. But as Blake's fame expanded and her Hollywood influence deepened, Taylor's mentions of her grew rarer. When Blake landed major roles, launched her ventures, or hit personal milestones, Taylor didn't post the kind of enthusiastic acknowledgments fans were used to seeing her give other close friends like Gigi Hadid or Selena Gomez. Suddenly, both of their feeds seemed to have been carefully scrubbed of each other, as if their friendship had been edited out of the narrative entirely. Fans caught on faster than the media did, trading screenshots and timelines in online forums that compared the overflowing praise of years past with the emptiness now. Then came the engagement rumors. When whispers about Taylor's engagement began circulating, fans expected Blake's name to surface instantly. After all, she wasn't just another friend. She was supposed to be part of Taylor's inner circle, one of the few who had earned a front-row seat in her personal life. So, when photos emerged from private celebrations, exclusive dinners, secret after-parties, and gatherings packed with A-list names, the shock wasn't about who attended. It was about who didn't. Blake Lively was nowhere to be seen. For many fans, her absence hit like confirmation of something they'd only dared to speculate before. If anyone was expected to be there for such a monumental moment, it was her. At first, people tried to rationalize it. Maybe Blake was away filming. Maybe she was focused on her family or couldn't travel on short notice. But those explanations started to crumble when fans remembered that this wasn't the first time she'd been missing from Taylor's big moments. In the past, similar excuses had been offered, claims of scheduling conflicts or travel issues, only for paparazzi photos to surface of Blake casually out to dinner days later. The narrative started to feel rehearsed, like polite cover stories concealing a deeper truth. Online chatter turned speculative, labeling the repeated absences as deliberate choices rather than coincidences. Behind the scenes, whispers claimed that Blake's omission from the engagement festivities wasn't an oversight at all. It was the result of a quiet, calculated shift that had been underway for months. Insiders suggested that Taylor's inner circle had subtly rearranged itself long before the engagement party. Familiar faces began showing up more frequently in her orbit, while Blake's presence faded until it was practically non-existent. If those rumors are true, then the engagement wasn't the breaking point. It was merely the public confirmation of a long, slow unraveling. The decision to leave Blake out didn't happen overnight. It was the final step in a gradual withdrawal that both sides seemed to acknowledge without ever saying aloud. The change became even more visible through mutual friends. Stars who used to spend time with both women started appearing exclusively alongside Taylor, on vacations, backstage at shows, and in candid shots snapped by paparazzi. These patterns rarely happen by accident in Hollywood's tightly woven social web. When loyalties shift, the cameras capture it long before anyone makes it official. When Blake failed to appear at the engagement celebrations marking a pivotal chapter in Taylor's life, it wasn't just another scheduling miss. It was a message. A quiet but unmistakable signal that their once public friendship had reached its end. For fans who had followed their journey from the sparkly 4th of July parties to the red carpet smiles and social media banter, the silence was deafening. What was once an inseparable bond now looked like a carefully maintained distance. And as Taylor stepped into a new era, Blake's absence wasn't just noticed, it was symbolic. The engagement moment crystallized what many had suspected all along, that the friendship had been fading behind the scenes for a long time, and what looked like a sudden snub was, in truth, the final act of a slow and deliberate unraveling.
Was not happy for the couple, it seems. Blake Lively. Let's get into the latest scoops on what's happening regarding Blake. The biggest sign, Taylor's friendship is over. I mean, this is obvious. I don't know why it's taken Taylor Swift fans to get to this so long, that Taylor clearly is not friends with Blake anymore. And that should say everything. To anybody who's still defending Blake Lively out there, how can you justify all these snubs? Explain it to me. Because Taylor should be defending Blake. And that's what Blake thinks too. But Taylor's not. She's doing everything but supporting Blake. And now she's...
So, what really caused Taylor Swift and Blake Lively's friendship to fall apart? That's the question everyone keeps asking, but no one seems able to answer definitively. Still, most of the whispers point in one direction. Something behind the scenes shifted, something significant enough to turn public affection into quiet distance. Friendships that close don't dissolve overnight. There's usually a trigger, a final breaking point that turns private tension into full disconnection. According to insiders, whatever happened didn't unfold under bright lights or red carpet cameras, but in hushed phone calls, private meetings, and conversations that never reached the press. Some say the split stemmed from publicity, an area where Taylor and Blake have always approached fame in opposite ways. Taylor has never been shy about weaving personal relationships into her creative narrative, blending themes of loyalty, betrayal, and empowerment into her art and interviews. For her, storytelling and real life often blur. But for someone like Blake, who guards her image meticulously and keeps her family life fiercely private, that kind of exposure might have crossed a line. The idea of their friendship being used as lyrical inspiration or media content could have felt invasive, as if something personal had become part of a marketing machine. Then there's the ego theory, the idea that two powerful women at the peak of their respective industries inevitably clashed over control and attention. Taylor thrives in the spotlight, constantly reinventing her mythos and feeding the cycle of public fascination. Blake, meanwhile, prefers selectivity. She appears when she wants to, how she wants to, on her own terms. That contrast might have been manageable at first, but as Taylor's cultural influence exploded into a near-constant global presence, the imbalance grew too sharp. When one person's fame depends on openness and the other's on discretion, coexistence becomes tricky. People close to the situation noticed the shift before fans did. Suddenly, mutual friends who used to appear alongside both women were spending time exclusively with Taylor. Group outings shrank, photos vanished, and even the most casual sightings of them together stopped. In Hollywood, that kind of social reorganization doesn't happen by accident. It usually signals a fracture that can't be repaired. Yet, some believe the fallout wasn't a dramatic fight at all, but a quiet, gradual drift. Life paths changed, priorities evolved, and over time, their worlds simply stopped overlapping. For months, the distance was easy to ignore until the engagement. That moment turned private separation into public confirmation. When Blake was conspicuously absent from the celebrations surrounding one of Taylor's biggest life milestones, the illusion of closeness shattered completely. What might have been a subtle fade-out became a headline. Fans who once adored their dynamic suddenly realized they hadn't seen the two together in years, and the missing invite felt like proof of an ending everyone had subconsciously sensed. In hindsight, the signs had been there all along: smiles that seemed forced, social media silence, mutual friends choosing sides. The engagement snub didn't cause the rift, it exposed it. It showed that the perfectly curated image of friendship had already collapsed long before. Public appearances, polished captions, and coordinated parties had masked the slow unraveling, but once the silence became obvious, there was no way to disguise it. So, what does this say about celebrity friendships in general? Are they genuine emotional bonds or strategic alliances crafted for visibility and brand alignment? In an industry built on performance, authenticity often gets blurred with image management. If someone as publicly close to Taylor as Blake can be phased out this decisively, it raises a bigger question. How fragile are these connections when the cameras stop rolling? Maybe the friendship was real once, but in the world they inhabit, where every moment is content and every bond is watched, it's hard for anything private to stay pure for long. And now, as Taylor's circle continues to evolve, fans can't help but wonder who might be the next to quietly disappear from the frame.